I think we have moved from physical false flags to digital false flags. I mean, that really is a artificially intelligent digital false flag. And wow, that's wild. I did not know that. But that makes complete sense because Palantir has been at the center of so many things, and all of a sudden that company is completely on the map and on people's mind and on social media. Okay, that is pretty wild. All right, so that makes a lot more sense as to why now. This 7 country in 5 years thing. I mean, man, this really goes back to obviously George W. Bush and the neoconservatives and the whole project for a new America century. Do you feel like all of these presidents, maybe up until 2016 Trump, is everybody kind of on the same team? What are your thoughts on this uniparty concept?
Well, I would go one step further. I wouldn't exclude Trump from that list. But yes, there is a uniparty for sure. And yes, you accurately identify, of course, Bush and the neocon cabal, the Project for a New American Century, which formed in the late 1990s. And of course, famously, infamously wrote their Rebuilding America's Defenses document, warning about a new Pearl Harbor that would be necessary to justify the recreation of the American empire and extension of the American empire into the 21st century 1 year before 9/11. All of that history and craziness. Of course, and people rightly at the time identified the neocons as an existential threat to humanity, given the kind of bellicose warmongering that they were engaged in at the time and the craziness. For example, just one example of many, there was Seymour Hersh talking in, I believe, 2007 or 8, talking about, hey, Cheney tried to gin up this event with the Iranians using American sailors dressed up as Iranians on an Iranian ginned up PT boat, that they were going to cause this false naval incident in Iranian waters in order to justify an attack on Iran. And Seymour Hersh was ringing the alarm bell about that years and years ago. So yes, the neocons absolutely were part of this threat. But then so of course, everyone went for hope and change. Obama, we want the peace
Yeah.
guy who's going to come in and bring peace to the world. And he gets the Nobel Peace Prize for not being named George W. Bush, essentially. But of course, he just expanded all of the wars that Bush had started, including expanding the drone war into Pakistan and all sorts of craziness like that. The neoliberal agenda was essentially no different than the neoconservative agenda. It just wore a different cloak. And it came under the guise of responsibility to protect. R2P was this phrase that was being thrown around at the time by the neolib regime. And it was, for example, the justification for the overthrow of Gaddafi in Libya. These spontaneous people's uprisings in Libya, and he's about to slaughter all these civilians. Trust us, guys. So we have to go in and deliver a humanitarian love bombing to free the Libyan people. And of course, once they had obliterated Libya, and of course, Gaddafi ended up sodomized in a gutter somewhere in the streets of Tripoli. What happened to Libya? Who cares? Whatever. Moving on to the next target. Oh, what actually happened to Libya is, for example, the creation of open air slave markets, human slave markets operating in Libya just a few years after the attacks. But who cares about that? No one's talking about that because, of course, it was never about the Libyan people. It was just a different cloak, a different guise for the same uniparty to do what they always do. So, of course, once that's all done, well, we need the next hope and change guy. And who comes down the golden escalator but Trump to deliver us
Yeah.
all from this horrible regime? And he immediately, in 2016, starts filling up the swamp with all the swamp dwellers that one would expect from Goldman Sachs and other deep state institutions, filling up his regime with them, putting John Bolton and Mike Pompeo and
Let
other.
me let me let me ask you this, because no, I get it, and I want to go there in a second. I guess the reason why I said, they're uniparty from really George H. Bush to Clinton to George W. to Obama, and then the reason I thought 2016 Trump was kind of the uniparty breaker was because he ran on that platform of, he has a famous interview with Jake Tapper where he said we're no better off without Gaddafi and without Saddam Hussein. And Jake Tapper's like, wait a minute, you think we're better off if those guys were alive? And he was like, absolutely. And he almost ran on that anti-war, which is so funny considering what's happening now, but he ran on that anti-war, anti-drain the swamp concept to get in. But I think where you're about to take us, which I would like you to take us there, is as soon as he got in, it's almost like he became the swamp, right?
Want the full truth? Watch the full Deep Shallow Dive interview next. And hit subscribe if you're done with talking points and ready for clarity.